Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We are so excited to have everyone here. We are just going to give a couple minutes for everyone to join the session, but in the meantime, while we're waiting, we would love to see everyone that we have on the session. If you want to throw in the chat where you're joining us from, what organization you're with, it's always really fun to see who is on these webinars. So feel free to throw that in the chat and we will just wait a minute or two for some people to trickle in, and then we'll get started with our exciting webinar today. Amazing. Hi, Melinda, Tim, Bruce. Hi, Mary from Seattle. Amazing. Hey, Chris, Mike. Good to see everyone here.
Do not know.
Okay, I'm going to give us just one more minute, maybe at 1:34, and then we will get started. Hey, Krista, Jessica, good to see you guys. All right, I think we have a good amount in here. Just going to start with a couple of housekeeping items and whatnot, and then we will get into our session today all about planned giving. So thank you everyone for joining us here today. My name is Bailey Houston, and I am our partnerships manager here at the Giving Block. For those of you that might not know what the Giving Block is, we are a fundraising platform that works with nonprofits on non-cash assets. So everything from crypto, stock, donor-advised funds, making it really easy for nonprofits to fundraise and tap into new donors with these non-cash assets. We are so excited to be partnering with Giving Docs on this webinar today. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you do have any questions throughout this session, please make sure to throw them in the Q&A. We want to make sure that we get to everyone's questions, so the Q&A is the easiest way for us to really manage all of those and make sure that we get to all of your questions. We will also be sending out a recording of this after, so we'll have a follow-up email in the next day or so with the recording and then some great resources from Giving Docs as well. So before I turn it over to Giving Docs and our amazing panelists today, I'm just going to share a quick bio of who will be sharing all this great information with you. So first we have Brantley Boyette, who is the co-founder and president of Giving Docs. He is a former recovering attorney, having practiced for over a decade before starting Giving Docs in 2015 in Austin, Texas. In 2017, Brantley moved to North Carolina when Giving Docs partnered with the Center for Advanced Hindsight at Duke University, which seeks to use behavioral science to make the world a happier, healthier, and wealthier place. Brantley received his JD and BFA in economics at the University of Texas in Austin, and he also currently teaches law and entrepreneurship at Duke University School of Law. And then along with Brantley, we have Jade Bristol, who is the Chief Development Officer at Giving Docs, who leverages her 15 years of experience in the nonprofit sector and background as a former trust and estates attorney to enhance planned giving outcomes through strategic uses of Giving Docs estate planning tools. With leadership roles at organizations like the Human Rights Campaign and Muscular Dystrophy Association, Jade brings us a wealth of expertise for today's session. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Jade and Brantley.
Great. Thank you so much. We're both really pleased to be here today to talk a little bit about planned giving. I've spent most of my career in planned giving, and I'm always happy to talk about the benefits to adding a planned giving program to your current development operations or enhancing your current planned giving program. If we can go to the next slide, please. Great. So you should all recognize the slide that's on your screen now. This is the traditional donor pyramid that we all see in the world of fundraising. And just to orient ourselves a little bit about where planned giving and bequest giving fits in to fundraising, this donor pyramid structure is really meant to show large quantities of small gifts at the bottom. And then as you progress up the pyramid, you're getting smaller numbers of larger gifts. So it's not really meant to show a linear progression, right? That's not how donors interact with our organizations. We know that they can come in at any of these points. They can do a bequest gift when they've never given an annual gift. They can do an event gift if they've never done any other type of giving or volunteering with our organization. And then it's fluid. They can move in between these levels as well. So think about it less as a way to progress donors up and more as just an overview of the relative number and sizes of these types of gifts. Next slide. This is a demographic slide that is really relevant to planned giving. So in the world of planned giving, we know that we are at this precipice of a rapidly aging society in the US. And in the next 6 years, by 2030, 1 in 5 of us are going to be over the age of 65. So that becomes really important when you're thinking about the types of gifts that will be attractive to your donors in the coming years. That changes as the population ages, as someone progresses through their own life cycle. The types of gifts that they are comfortable doing and want to give is going to change as well. And being ready with a planned giving strategy will help you be ready to answer those important questions from your aging donors. Next slide. So hopefully we have all heard about this, right? The great wealth transfer. This is the thing that goes hand in hand with that aging demographic in the US, is the fact that over the next 20 years, we are expecting to see $84 trillion of wealth change hands in this country. So we want to make sure that all of your organizations are poised to get as much of that as possible. A lot of that transfer is going to go to charity, and we want to make sure that you know what you need to be doing now in order to set your organization up for the best possible chance of reaping the benefits of some of that great wealth transfer. Next slide. So I love this graphic. This is information from Giving USA that was distilled down by our friends over at Canopy Fundraising. And I think this is really says it all. And if you find yourself in a position where you need to convince your leadership about the benefits of investing in planned giving, think this is one of the most impactful things you can share with them, which is that growth in bequest giving is rapidly outpacing growth in individual annual giving. So you can see here that over the last 10 years, growth in individual giving has not even kept up with inflation, right? It's 2.4%. Whereas growth in bequest giving over the last 10 years has grown at about 45%. And every indication is that that type of growth will continue as the population continues to age. Next slide. So now that we've looked at a little bit of background about the general overview of some demographics and sort of why planned giving is so important right now for organizations, let's look at a few of the most common types of planned gifts. So if you have no experience in planned giving, if you feel a little intimidated by planned giving, maybe feeling a little too technical, I hope that by the end of this slide, you'll feel more empowered to be able to talk to your donors about these types of gifts. So the first one I'm going to start with is simple bequests. These are the bread and butter of planned giving. Over 85% of all planned gifts come in the form of a bequest, and a bequest is simply a gift that's made through a will or a revocable living trust. A revocable living trust is you can think of that as synonymous with a will. It's what's known as a will substitute. There are lots of different types of trusts. So just because you use the word trust doesn't always mean you're talking about the same thing. When you're talking about bequest giving, you're talking about a will or a revocable living trust. You don't have to be an expert in either one to know how to mention this to your donors. I think there are some really powerful, simple messaging that we can be giving to our donors about bequest giving. One is that it's a very simple way to give, right? This is something that they aren't necessarily committing to for their whole lifetimes. This is changeable. They can change their mind. They're not committed just because they make this type of gift. And that's when our own stewardship comes into play, right? And keeping these gifts warm over the donor's lifetime, making sure that they feel acknowledged and celebrated for their gift commitment, and making sure that our organizations stay in that estate plan over time. One of the benefits of this type of giving from a donor's perspective, in addition to it being simple and changeable, is that these are larger gifts. These tend to be gifts at levels that donors maybe couldn't give during their lifetime. You know, maybe it's a donor who doesn't have a huge amount of capacity or wealth, but who does have standard assets, right? A home, an investment account, a retirement account, and whatever they don't use during their lifetime will then be available for them to give through their will or trust. A barrier to this type of giving for some donors is the fact that you do have to have a will or a trust in place. So you want to make sure that you are providing your donors with the types of tools that they need to make that type of giving a little easier. The next type of gift that I want to talk about are beneficiary designations. These are the next most common forms of gifts, incredibly simple, powerful ways to give. A beneficiary designation form is something that's used on a financial account. So this would be something like life insurance or a retirement account or maybe an investment account. And it's when you fill out that form, right, from your insurance policy or your IRA administrator, where they're asking you, in the event of your death, who would you like this asset to go to? And you can, designate maybe a handful of people by percentages. It's a very simple form of giving because it doesn't require the donor to draft any other type of documentation. They're just using this form. And it's great for you representing your organization, because what we know is that there's a lot of wealth that passes through beneficiary designation forms. So about $35 trillion in wealth in this country is held in retirement accounts. It accounts for a third of all household wealth in the US. So even people of modest wealth, everyday wealth, as we say, have a house, they have a retirement account. Those are their biggest assets. So let's make sure that our organizations are prepared to have conversations with our donors about how they can support the causes that they care about through the assets that they have. And they have retirement accounts. So this is something that's really easy to talk to donors about. They understand what it is, and it's easy to make changes. The barrier for some donors is simply in remembering to update those forms. So a lot of times you'll open a new account or you'll apply for a new life insurance policy and you'll get that form back to fill out. You'll fill it out the first time and then you forget it exists. So many years can go by without people updating those beneficiary designation forms. And it's great to be the one who's reminding your donors of the need to periodically update those forms. Next on our list of plan giving types is charitable trusts. So this could be a charitable remainder trust or a charitable lead trust. And there's lots of other types of these. You might hear about CRATs or CRUTs. Those are charitable remainder annuity trusts, charitable remainder unit trusts. You do not have to know the difference between those to be good at planned giving. These are great vehicles and are important for a certain type of donor, but don't let the technical side of this make you feel less empowered to start a conversation about bequests or beneficiary designations or asset giving or other types of plan giving with your donors. I just want you to know that these exist. These tend to be for larger gifts, right? So charitable trusts are almost never funded with assets less than $100,000, and even $100,000 would be a very small charitable trust. You more typically see sort of $250,000 and up range for these types of trusts. The benefits for donors, there are some very specific tax advantages to these types of trusts. So that's when you start getting into remainder trusts and lead trusts, when donors have certain asset types that they want to minimize their taxation on. The next type of gift I want to talk about, hopefully you've all heard about CGAs, right? Charitable gift annuities. This is another type of simple planned gift that many organizations use to sort of dip their toe into the water of planned giving. These are relatively easy to use, especially if you're outsourcing the administration of them to a bank or other company that provides that service. So what a CGA is a contract between the donor and the organization. The donor gives a sum of money, and from that sum of money, they are able to get back a life income payment. So periodically, whether that's monthly or quarterly or annually, however it's set up, they're going to get some income back from that. They're also going to get a tax deduction for that. And then on your end of things for a charity, whatever is left over from that principal amount when the donor passes away goes to the charity as a gift. So it's part annuity, part gift. The charity sets whatever rules they want to make around their own CGA giving. So most commonly, you'll see minimums set around the amount of the gift and the minimum age of the donor. So you might see a minimum gift amount of $10,000 or $20,000, and maybe the minimum age that the charity will accept is 65 or 70 years old. There's an organization called the ACGA, the American Council on Gift Annuities, that provides a lot of tools and support to organizations who have charitable gift annuity programs, and they're a great resource for more information on that. The benefit to the donor is that they get this life income plus tax deduction. That's pretty attractive. The barrier is that, of course, the organization has to have a CGA program, or they have to outsource that to a bank or other company. It's not overly burdensome most of the time, but it is an additional step. And then the last type of planned gift that I want to talk about isn't really a planned gift at all. It's asset gifts. But these fall under the umbrella of planned gifts very frequently, and I'll explain why. There's two reasons. One is that Dr. Russell James, who's a professor at Texas Tech, who has done a lot of research on planned giving, one of the great quotes from him in his presentations is that cash is not king. 98% of wealth in this country is held in assets, not in cash. So if we're only asking our donors to give annual gifts through their checking account, we are missing out on potentially larger gifts that they could be making through their investment accounts, through a donor advised fund, if they have that in place, or through a qualified charitable distribution of their IRA account, or through crypto. So one of those asset giving types could lead to a bigger gift for your organization. The reason that this falls under planned giving is because when you have a donor who is giving one of these types of asset gifts, it tells you a couple of things. It tells you, one, that they have some wealth capacity, right? This is someone who has some extra money that they've put into a donor advised fund, or they are a retired person who doesn't need their entire minimum distribution from their IRA account, so they can give it in the form of a QCD. There's some capacity there. It also leads us to a conversation with that donor about giving through beneficiary designations, which is a type of planned gift, because these asset giving types very frequently, almost always, pass through a beneficiary designation and not through a will or a trust. So if they have a retirement account, if they have a stock giving portfolio, if they have a donor advised fund, there are going to be beneficiary designation forms attached to all of those asset types that will control how the remainder of that asset gets distributed when that donor passes away. So it's a clue for you and for your team about what else you can be talking to that donor about. All right, next slide, please. So this slide is a simple checklist about some operational readiness criteria for building or growing a plan giving program. So we hear from a lot of people that they're just starting a plan giving program, or maybe they've formed a legacy society, but they sort of don't know what else to do. This is really meant as just a guideline for what some of those other steps might be towards growing a healthy plan giving program. What I don't want you to do is to feel like you have to have every single one of these things in place before you can start talking to donors about planned gifts. It's great if you have all of them in place, but don't let this checklist feel like a barrier to having plan giving conversations. These are just some ideas for things that you can consider as you try to grow your program. So the main things in here that I want to point out is the importance of having some type of marketing strategy around plan giving. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but really you can do a lot with integration with marketing. You don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money on marketing just planned giving in order to get the word out. Also, make sure that you are giving your donors the right tools to create planned and asset gifts. Sometimes donors need a little assistance with that, and we want to make sure that we are giving them tools the same way that we're giving them tools to make a credit card donation on our websites, right? So we want to make sure that when they have that intention, that they have the right tools to then turn that into an action. And then the other quick point I'll make on this slide is the importance of stewardship. I touched on that a little already. You can just have a legacy society in place. That doesn't cost anything. That is just announcing that you have a legacy society, putting maybe something on your website about that, and then having some type of welcome letter, thank you letter sent to the donors who are leaving you planned gift commitments, welcoming them to your legacy society as one of your stewardship touch points. Other no-cost stewardship touch points are things like birthday cards, calls, thank you calls from your board or your leadership. There's a lot of very easy stewardship techniques that take little or no time, little or no money, but they're so important because you want to make sure that you are staying in that estate plan over time, and stewardship is the way to do that. Next slide. So diving a little bit more into plan giving marketing, I talked a little bit about this as a way that you can look at integrated marketing for your plan giving messaging. So some of the most common things to do for plan giving marketing for organizations that are just starting out or that are trying to grow a plan giving program is look at your web presence for planned giving. Is there a dedicated plan giving page on your organization's website? You can also partner with one of the plan giving marketing agencies that are out there to build a plan giving microsite for your organization that will contain a much more robust set of information about different gift types, different tax consequences than maybe you would be able to build in-house. So lots of different options there, but I think making sure that you have something in place in terms of your web presence is really important, so that when donors are on your site looking for information about that, there's something there for them. Also look at integration opportunities with your annual or major giving program, or with a campaign or a reunion year that you're having if you're in higher ed. Anytime that you're communicating with your donors, there are probably ways for you to also integrate a planned giving message into that communication. Some other ways to do that are buck slips, reply devices from just your annual giving campaigns, plan giving ads in your organization's newsletters or magazines that are going out to all of your donors, or adding a plan giving question onto a donor survey that your organization is sending out. So there are a lot of ways to piggyback that plan giving messaging. But the really important point here is that you have to be repetitive and you have to be consistent. So we know in marketing in general that it takes 4 to 7 touch points for someone to even be aware that you're asking them to do something, let alone to take an action. So making sure that you are getting that plan giving message out there as frequently as you can in whatever ways you can is important. And just don't stop doing it after a couple times, right? Make sure that you are having a consistent program of talking about plan giving to your donors. Next slide, please. Great. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Brantley Boyette now to talk a little bit about Giving Docs and Giving Block and the integration there. What's, I think, important to take away from this section of our presentation is just that integrations are a really impactful way of growing your planned giving program, and having the right tools is really important, because that is how, especially in this form of giving, one of the best ways to help your donors take an actual concrete action. There are a lot of donors out there who have great gift intentions, but we want to make sure that we are helping you close planned gifts with actual completed documents or a completed gift. So Brantley is going to talk a little bit more about some tools that are available to help you do that.
Thanks so much, Jade, and thanks for having me, everyone. I'm going to speak a little bit about who we are at Giving Docs and what we do, and also share with you an exciting integration that we now have with the Giving Block, which we're excited to share here today. If I can have the next slide, please, Bailey. So a little bit about the why. Giving Docs is on a mission to build a better world by empowering estate planning and increasing planned giving. Our online estate and gift planning platform enables the world's most inspiring nonprofit organizations to dramatically amplify bequests while enabling people to create more impactful legacies. So, as you might have ascertained, Giving Docs is an online estate planning platform. We work directly with nonprofits. What's different about our platform is that we are not a consumer-facing brand. So, Giving Docs estate planning platform is really only available through the nonprofit partners that we work with as a gift or member benefit to their donors, volunteers, constituents, the people they serve, alumni, and patients, actually, in the medical field. So if I can have the next slide, please. This is a high-level overview of the things that we include on our platform. So, of course, we have wills, we have trusts in California. We have a codicil tool, which allows people to create a gift for an organization when they have already completed a will or trust. We have a tool for beneficiary designation assistance. We have a tool to help people create their financial power of attorney and their health care directive or living will, depending on what state they're in. And we also have kind of current giving tools that Jade touched on earlier, such as a donor advised fund tool, a stock giving tool, and a qualified charitable distribution tool. I think it's important to take a moment here and say that we don't believe that our platform is a silver bullet for planned giving. That is to say, Jade provided a really good checklist of things that need to be done to start a planned giving program. Especially important to me are getting the Legacy Society started, getting institutional buy-in, establishing some kind of marketing program and cadence for planned giving, and then figuring out what stewardship looks like in the organization. These tools, these online tools, can't replace those kind of key things that need to be done in order to start a planned giving program. And there needs to be a human element to it as well. So someone needs to be able to call these donors and tell them thank you, and try to really figure out why they've created these gifts and why they intend to keep the gifts in their plans throughout their life. And that stewardship is really key. But what we can help people do with these tools is kind of make this decision today and share that intention with these organizations. And we help a lot of organizations do just that. So if I could have the next slide, please. This is kind of what a donor or user sees on our platform. So this is our legacy dashboard, and you'll see here that from this dashboard, a user can access all of the kind of estate planning or gifting documents that they create on our site. And when a user creates a profile on our site, they get an account that is free to them for life, forever. And that doesn't matter if the nonprofit that we were working with is no longer a customer or partner of ours. The users always have this profile, and they can always go back in, easily update their documents, including the will, those beneficiary designations we talked about, codicil, financial power of attorney, their healthcare directive. They can also register as an organ donor in their state, and then they can dig in on the current giving at the bottom here. You'll also see that we provide them with a legacy checklist because we are encouraging the creation of legacies here. So you'll see that over here. And we also let them know once they've created some type of gift in their plan that they're Legacy Society eligible. And all of this is fully customizable to each individual organization that we work with. When a user gets to this page, it's because they've found or been sent a specifically branded landing page for the organization, inviting them to create a Giving to Docs account and take advantage of these free services that are being provided by the organization. And all of this is kind of pushing people towards feeling like this is a gift from the organization and I should really consider what my legacy is. So it's not purely estate planning, but really focus on instilling in our users the idea of the creation of a legacy. We also allow our users to share their Giving Docs access with friends and family. So if a married person wants to create a mirror will for their spouse, they can do that easily on our platform. If they want to share it with their children, they're happy to do that. And no one is ever required to leave a bequest to a partner or any charity. But obviously throughout this process, they are gently encouraged to do so. And many of our users just take it and get their estate plan, and that's fine. And that way the charity knows they've taken advantage of that offer. And that's really good for building a culture around an organization when you're giving back to your donors. So next slide, please. I just want to talk about a few of the ways that we're different than some other platforms out there. So our pricing, we believe, is kind of affordable and fair to all organizations. So we don't charge based on how much money an organization has, but instead try to keep pricing fair and low, across industries. And it's not different by vertical. We never have steep price increases. And we generally agree to lock in pricing for the first 2 years. We include all of those tools that I just showed you as part of that low pricing. So we don't piecemeal out our different services. Every donor that comes to our site from whatever landing page has immediate access to wills, codicils, trusts, healthcare directives, financial powers of attorney, the organ donation tool, and the QCD, stock giving, and donor advised fund giving tools, and the giving block tool, which I'm going to talk about more here in a second. On data and private security, data security and privacy, which is really important to our higher ed and healthcare partners, we have SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, and we make a written commitment to never sell or rent customer data now or in the future. Our results, which I'm going to share more about just in a second here, but we have what I believe is the highest disclosure rate in the industry. So 80% of the people creating a gift on the Giving Docs platform are, at the time of the creation of that gift, disclosing their information to the organization for whom they left the gift. And we've done a lot of work here. I'm located in Durham, North Carolina. I moved here because we partnered with Duke University and specifically a behavioral science lab called the Center for Advanced Hindsight to study how to get people to do estate planning at all and how to get people to think about their legacy in that process. One of the biggest problems we've tackled with the scientists here is how do we get people to disclose gifts to the organization? Because anonymous gifts are good. And, traditionally 70% of the gifts that come into a nonprofit organization as a bequest are anonymous, but they're not actionable by the organization. So that means you can't do stewardship. You can't talk to the donor about potentially better ways to give than a bequest. They're not a potential major gift engagement that you might have. So we've worked really hard to get that disclosure rate up to figure out how, what speaks to people in order to get them to share more information with the organizations. And I think that's really kind of at the core of the value of what we do is helping organizations build that pipeline of what we call gifts under management. And I'll speak more to that in a second. And then for marketing support, we provide what I say is unlimited customer support. So we'll provide you with as many campaigns as you want to run throughout the year. in order to share the Giving Docs platform with your donors, volunteers, constituents, patients, alumni. And we'll also do that for the different tools that we provide as well. So if you wanted to run a QCD campaign in, say, November, then we're happy to help you craft that. And we also work with a number of the marketing firms in the space and consultants in the space. If you've got one of those, there's a good chance we've already partnered or have a relationship with them. And we're generally going to be working with them to make sure that we're not getting in the way of the good work that they're doing. And next slide, please. So going back to what I was talking about with results, this is kind of a snapshot of what our partner or customer portal looks like. And you'll see here included in this portal, we have the number of accounts that have been activated, the number of documents that have been completed by donors, the number of completed gifts, the percentage of gifts disclosed, the number of hand raisers. And we define a hand raiser as someone who has expressed an intent to create a gift for the organization, but has not yet completed it. So in the case of the Giving Docs platform, that might be someone's created a will, allocated a percentage to your organization, and then dropped out, trying to figure out who their personal representative is. And hand raisers are it's really valuable to organizations to know who these people are, who has this intent, and to be able to contact them and figure out what their needs are, and if they're not ready right now, to help them understand, when it's time to create a planned gift, and also those other types of giving that we talked about earlier. And then we also have, we allow organizations to assume what their average residual gift is and the estimated value of the gifts collected on the platform. And the portal gets much deeper than that, but we can show you more perhaps on a demo if you're interested in learning more. So next slide, please. And this is what it looks like when those gifts start to come in. And this is the really exciting part for our partners. So when someone's created a gift and chosen to share their information with the organization gets their name, address, email, date of birth, not shown here, but often phone number, the status of their gifting documents. So if they've notarized their will, the organization gets a notification, where the gift is going. If it's a residual amount, it shows the percentage. If it's a specific amount, it shows you the exact amount that they want to give. Whether it's a codicil gift, stock gift, donor advised fund gift, QCD gift, all of that lands in here and creates kind of an actionable pipeline for gift officers to work off of and create new relationships with donors. Next slide, please. And one more slide. I'm going to briefly talk about some of our impact. So people are always asking, isn't this just for young people? And that's not really what we're seeing on our platform. So you'll see that the largest percentage of people using the Giving Docs platform is actually age 58 to 76. 27% is under age 41, and 27% is 42 to 57. And then the surprising thing to a lot of people is that older people actually do use this platform and platforms like ours. When we started this 9 years ago, no one thought we would ever hit the target demographic for planned giving with online estate planning. Clearly, the pandemic was a huge factor in kind of shifting that perception. At a time in 2020 when people really needed to plan their estates, estate planning attorneys were overloaded, and people really heavily shifted to online solutions, not just in estate planning, but in a number of fields. And I think overall, that's been a net boon for planned giving in general, because more people have started thinking about doing their estate planning. And that may be a positive outcome of what was obviously a terrible situation. So on the right side, you'll see that 58% of the people who are completing their estate planning documents on our platform are including charitable gifts. And we have that 80% disclosure rate that I spoke about earlier. And then we don't say ROI around here because it's difficult to assign a current value to future bequests that haven't come in yet, but we do use this metric, and what we've seen over the past few years is an average of 88-1 in the amount of gift commitments divided by the annual contract cost of the Giving Docs platform. And then we have a lot of happy customers. So 95% of our Giving Docs partners review. We've seen, contrary to what people originally assumed, this isn't a flash in the pan. The first year is not the best year. Actually, the more you show this type of platform and share this type of platform with people, we've seen generally that the amount of gifts per year will increase, not decrease. Next slide, please. And I want to briefly touch on our integration and say thank you to the Giving Blocks team. Many people have been involved in making this integration happen. So as I talked about the current giving tools that we currently have on the platform earlier, which included stock giving, donor advice fund giving, and QCD, we now have built a fourth button for crypto gifts, which will link directly to your organization's Giving Block account. And that is kind of a seamless integration for all of the users, so that if they're choosing to look at their estate plan holistically and do some current giving now, this is another opportunity for you to promote crypto giving to them at a time when they're really thinking about everything that they have and what they want their legacy to be. So we're really thrilled to be in the room with the Giving Block team and to have this integration on our website now. And I just want to thank them for being patient with us and making that possible. And next slide, if there is one. I think this is, yeah, we're to the end. So I want to thank you guys for having us. Jade and I are happy to answer any questions that you have at this point. And I'll pass it over to Bailey to do any moderation if necessary.
Amazing. Thank you so much, you guys, for that amazing presentation. I think it was such a great overview of not only what planned giving really entails, but if you're a nonprofit, how to get started with it, the tools that you offer. I mean, such a great overview, especially for those nonprofits that are kind of new to planned giving. I see we do have one question coming in so far. And again, for everyone on here, if you have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A. So this question is, are there some sort of new rules that require wealth advisors no longer being able to serve as the investment advisor for their clients' charitable accounts? If so, seems like a great opportunity set for charitable advisors. I don't know if either of you want to take that one.
Yeah, I think I know what that person is asking. There are some new DAF regulations that have been proposed that contain some rules about being able to serve as an investment advisor. Those are a little bit beyond the scope of my knowledge of the new regulations. But yes, those will certainly change things in the DAF environment specifically, not for general investment accounts.
Awesome. And then I see a question in here about if someone wants to find out more about the costs, how would they do that? Is the best thing to kind of schedule a demo with you guys, or what's best if someone wants more information on pricing?
Yeah, our emails are here on this page, and you can reach out to us directly, and we'd be happy to set up a call with you. As I said earlier, I think, it's important to note that we're not a silver bullet for planned giving, but we get a lot of calls from people who are building programs, and we work with a lot of consultants and a lot of marketing companies in the space. And so we're happy to do essentially a free consult and help explain to you what you need, whether we're a good fit, and what the pricing is, not just for our service, but across the board for all of those other types of services as well.
Awesome. I see a question in here about going back to the integration slide. I think there we go. So yeah, again, I see a question in here about going back to the slide about the crypto integration. So this is what it looks like Brantley had mentioned. Now when donors are seeing options for kind of immediate gifts that they can see and give cryptocurrency directly in their platform. So now, I mean, especially with the bull market that we're going into, it's a great time to be adding this to your platform. And I think, like Brantley had also mentioned, it's a great time to also capture donors where they're already thinking about their giving, how they want to contribute. just a great way to kind of capture these donors in one place when they're already here. So again, really, really excited about this integration with Giving Docs. And if you are a client of the Giving Block as well, you can just have your donation form embedded directly in here for donors to use. So if you have any questions about the Giving Block and our crypto donation kind of form and policy, we're happy to help with that as well. But this is what the integration looks like. I see another question in here from Bruce. Are you or your clients seeing an increase in the size of actualized bequests?
So I'm assuming that is like matured bequests that are actually coming in. We don't have a ton of insight into that, but we do see, we have seen a slight increase in the value of gift commitments being made on the Giving Docs website. And I know that there is a sort of upward trend in the value of bequest gifts overall, again, as we head into this great wealth transfer. So I feel like that's only going to continue its upward trajectory. But yeah, we're seeing a slight increase in the value of gift commitments. Whether they're being actualized at higher rates, I think we don't know the answer to that quite yet.
And to add to that, Bruce, I think we've seen some evidence that the average of actualized gifts goes up in years following the market going up. So there's some evidence that would suggest that those gifts are going to continue to get larger for the next few years.
Awesome, amazing. I see another question here in the Q&A. Do you have any recommendations or specific tips to get donors to assign a value to their bequests?
We've studied this a lot at the behavioral science lab, and it's interesting. We know for one thing that when people assign values to their gifts, they often assign far too low. So if they're looking at the size of their estate, they usually think it's less than it actually is or will be. But we do have some nudges in our platform to get people to share, their estate size or to get people to leave a specific gift. But that's a tricky thing, and it's going to vary greatly by organization and demographics of the specific donors. And it's probably a longer discussion that we have here today.
Awesome. Another great question in here. So I really loved the slide that was in here about, if you're not a nonprofit, how you can get started talking about this with donors, stewarding it. So I see a question in here that says, you mentioned raising this issue with donors. How do you do that? So any kind of tips and tricks for nonprofits, and how do you start kind of the planned giving conversation with your donors?
Sure. There are some very specific cues that we usually recommend you listen for in your conversations with donors. And they are usually along the lines of, I can't give that much right now, or I wish I could help more. Some indication that the donor wants to and would, under other circumstances, give you a larger gift. They just feel like they have to hold back for whatever reason. Maybe things are feeling tight for them right now. Maybe they just don't know what's ahead for them as they age. And they want to make sure that their resources are available to them for their lifetimes. So that is the perfect cue for you to then say, have you considered a gift through your will or trust to support an organization? Because then at that point, they of course no longer need their resources anymore. They've used their resources during their lifetime, and then can potentially leave you a much larger gift after their lifetime is over. So that's sort of the gold standard in a donor conversation, but also just anytime you're talking to your donors about their assets. So if you're talking to a major donor, or if you're sitting in a living room with a donor and you're talking about their home or their boat or their vacation or their whatever they're doing, that can also be a great cue for you to say, hey, have you thought about giving a gift through your beneficiary designation for your stock account or whatever it is that you're talking about? So that's why it's just important to know what all those types of plan giving vehicles are. You don't have to be an expert in them to bring them up, and just say, have you considered giving through this type of gift?
Yeah, That's amazing. And that brings me to the other thing that I was kind of wondering from you guys too is when you're kind of looking at what existing donors you have that are a good potential fit for this, are there any kind of parameters that you guys suggest looking for on like what donors in your database are good to start kind of having the planned giving conversation with? Or is it again, just like as you're having those conversations, kind of knowing what methods are available and kind of looking at what comes up in those natural conversations?
Jade could probably answer this better than me, but I know the number one thing everyone looks for is consistent giving. So, have they given consistently over the last X amount of time? And that's how people generally filter their list to figure out who they're going to market plan giving to.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. When we're segmenting our lists for planned giving in the nonprofit sector, we're generally looking at loyalty, right? And so loyalty is shown by number of gifts over a specific number of years. So you might be looking at, pick a number, 5 gifts in the last 7 years, 9 gifts in the last 10 years, however your organization defines that. And it doesn't matter the size of the gift. They could be giving $10 a year. If they're giving consistently over time, that's telling you that there is something about your mission that they are very loyal to. And those are the best plan giving candidates. However, I will say that the way that the plan giving sector has traditionally built our plan giving lists has more to do with the fact that there are generally very limited resources in terms of staffing to go and talk to those donors. So the more you start integrating tools for donors, the broader your list can be.
Yeah, that's amazing. I see another question in here. Are there ways to incorporate new AI tools into your platforms?
There are, and I didn't touch on that earlier, but we have a number of relationships with new AI companies that are kind of working in this space to help streamline some of the list of things that Jade talked about. And without plugging any one of them here, we maintain relationships, with those companies and are happy to make introductions to them and show ways that they can be used in concert, both with our technology and everything else we talked about, the marketing firms, the consultants, to help. I really think they'll help bring down the cost of creating plan giving programs, which has been traditionally a big barrier for some of the smaller nonprofits in the US, is that there's not enough money and there's not enough human resources, and we know that AI can help with both of those things.
Amazing. One other thing I was kind of thinking of those that are new to plan giving is I know we talked a lot about kind of creating a legacy society. Would you be able to go just like quickly a little bit more for those who are new to planned giving of like what a legacy society is and kind of what that entails?
Sure, it's really easy. It's just a giving segment, right? It's like if your organization segments your donors by different giving levels, maybe you have the President's Society that gives at $25,000 and above, or you have some other named giving societies. A legacy society is for people who have given you a planned gift commitment. Not maybe the gift has come in, maybe it's from someone who's deceased, but it's mostly for people who are alive and that you want to acknowledge their gift commitment. Different organizations have different rules around who can be a member of their legacy society. It is totally up to you. There's no rules about this, right? Higher ed is a little more strict because they have to count them in campaigns in a certain way. But for other types of organizations, there are plenty of organizations that we work with, both big and small, that all they need is just a verbal commitment from that donor that they've left them in their estate plan in order to add them to their legacy society. And then some of the most successful ways I've seen organizations steward those legacy society members is if you think of them as a major donor and you steward them the same way, because those gifts are going to be major gifts. They're just deferred. So if you are doing a stewardship event or some other type of stewardship activity for your major or principal level donors, just include your legacy society donors in that as well.
And to expand on that a little, we've seen more than once, smaller or medium-sized org get caught up in the naming of the legacy society and the branding of it. and that taking 6 months to a year, first of all, it shouldn't be that hard. And secondly, you should still be having, they're waiting to have conversations with donors, which is crazy because, these are legacy gifts and these people could go elsewhere or pass away. And so the naming, I think it's right to get branding right for sure, but that shouldn't be a really long exercise.
Yeah, that's really great. I see a really good suggestion in here from Lori about kind of thanking the donor abundantly and some ways to kind of have that verbal conversation. I'm just curious from you both, if I'm a nonprofit and I'm kind of looking for more tools or resources on kind of that donor stewardship for legacy giving, does Giving Docs kind of have those resources? Where do you suggest, if I'm a nonprofit kind of wanting to get more into this or kind of learn more about that stewardship step, any kind of tools or resources for people to take away from this?
Yeah, a large portion of the people that work over here are former plan giving professionals. So we are often consulting with our partners and providing them copy for those types of conversations. Some of the marketing firms also do really good kind of stewardship work on the back end, and consultants like, at least one or two in this talk today that's joined us, who are friends, are really excellent at that. And it probably makes sense to have them guide you through a call and what that sounds like and what real gratitude sounds like, and how you can open up that gratitude conversation into like a lifelong relationship and make that an opportunity to really steward, grow that bequest, and also figure out if there's other better ways to give, and if there's major gifts involved in this person's lifetime.
Awesome. Amazing. Yeah, and we have a great another comment in here from someone that is one of those consultants, and again, recommending it's worth even doing some training with your gift officers and leadership around having those conversations. So I love that suggestion as well, of kind of, it's sometimes easier to practice on another person and have some kind of test runs of what the conversation can be before you're doing it with an actual donor. So that is a great suggestion from Bruce as well. Awesome. And I see we are almost right at time here. Any kind of last takeaways, Brantley, Jade, before we wrap up our session? I think we got to all the questions in the Q&A and the chat.
I just want to say thanks so much for having us. I know we've been talking for a long time about the launch of this integration, and we're so thankful that you were here today to share your platform. So just really appreciate the whole team at the Giving Block, and appreciate you.
Awesome. And thank you for this amazing presentation too. I know I've even learned a lot about planned giving on this. And just as a reminder for everyone that is still on with us, we will be sending out a follow-up email with a recording of this session. We have some great resources from Giving Docs, and then we'll have their information as well. So if you want to get in touch with someone from their team, feel free to follow up there. I also will quickly just launch a poll that we have for anyone that is still on. So if you do want to get in touch with someone from either of our teams, you can also respond yes to this, and we will have someone reach out. But if not, we'll have all that information in the follow-up. So thank you so much to everyone again for joining us today. And with that, I think we will wrap up this session. So thanks again. I'll just give like 30 more seconds for the poll for anyone that's still here that might want to get in touch with us. But again, thank you guys so much for this amazing presentation. Such great